Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada.
We like to trick people on the way in.
It's good seeing you, brother.
It's good to see you too.
So you and Derek have never met, correct? Or never in passing at a conference? And so
I just started doing conferences like a year ago, or not even a year ago, like recently.
Right. So Derek and I have been podcast partners for, Derek, how many episodes deep are we now? It's got to be 200, right?
Almost. Yeah, we're getting there. It was about, I think we started in 2017.
Just been like fun conversations. We bring on interesting people. There's no
What am I doing here?
intro. We don't take ads. We don't really, just more of a fun, let's talk about anything type of thing.
I'm here for it, man.
I love it. So I got connected with Derek. I got connected with Dr. Sean Pastuch through Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. It's like the ultimate connector. I always consider myself the ultimate connector. She's giving me a run for my money right now. She's pretty but Dr. Sean, it's also like the perfect example of like she makes deposits, right? Like I always say, like, are you a withdrawal type of person? Or are you a deposit type person? And it's kind of how I've been categorizing people lately, which is bad, but I'm like, oh no, Dr. Sean's a deposit type person.
So let me ask you, like, first of all, it's not bad. I have a story for you off the record.
So we
But
can't.
What?
I said we can't record the story. What's up?
We can record the story. I mean, you can do whatever
We
you
don't
want.
use names. We don't have to use names.
Well, the first thing I want to know is what do I do to be a deposit? I'm curious because I want to keep doing it.
No, you're already doing it. But I mean, I think Derek, I don't know, like even with Derek and I, like it almost started as like this mutual friendship / respect. He came into my club with a celebrity client that he was working with on a movie set. A bunch of my guys, well, actually one of my guys, actually two of them. So it was Chris and it was Cody Benz, right, Derek?
Yeah.
Have you heard of Derek Lance? I go, yeah, I know the name, but never met him, don't know him. And he's like, he wants to work with so-and-so, which I didn't allow. And they were like, would you let him come in? I'm like, sure. Like, if you guys like him, great. And then he proceeded every day for the next 6 weeks to run a seminar for my trainers. And when I say like a seminar, I mean like, I can't even say it was at least an hour. It was at least 2 hours a day, every afternoon. And I'm watching him on the floor with my coaches. The next thing you know, Derek and I are hosting an event with Trueform, and we have he has like a dozen treadmills being brought in, and we have like 50 people in the club, and it just kind of evolved into something. So yeah, Derek's a deposit type of person. He's not sitting there. He wasn't asking me like, what can I, how much do you want to pay me for this? Or what can I get out of this? He's just like, let me add value. Let me do this because I love doing it. And I think you always hope that when you do that, it's appreciated and that someone's gonna, turn around and say, hey, what can I do for you now? And I think it's I think it's kind of how, and there's been a lot of people in my life that, are always trying to come to me for withdrawals. And after a while, you're just like, come on, man, like this isn't.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm curious. I appreciate you saying I'm a deposit guy.
Oh,
I was asking what I've done to make deposits so that I can consciously keep making deposits.
Well, I mean, I think first off, inviting me on your podcast, which I felt was really just a nice thing. And then I just think when we get together, there's never like an agenda. It's always, how are you? What's going on? How's life? It's just this very natural conversation. And I think it just evolves into other things. Like if you think about it, you and I have only really known each other for what, a year and a half, 2 years?
At most.
At most, maybe even less. But
yeah,
you start meeting people in the business and who's and Dr. G and I, like we talk probably 5 days a week, honestly. And it's just like, she's contacting me like, I got to introduce you to this person. I want you to meet this person. And because of that, I'm like, now it's like a competition. I'm like, all right, no. We need to hop on a call and we need to go through this. Like, I want you to look at this differently. Let's talk about this. Let me intro you to this person. Let me try and send business your way in this way. You've got your book coming out. What can we do? Like who can I connect you with? Who can we get Oh, it's like it becomes now like when someone bends over backwards for you, it really becomes about like, all right, well, they've gone out of their way for me. How do I go out of my way for them?
So I'll share the story with you. And Derek, if you're living in the same world that Don is, I imagine this will be a resonant story for you too. I don't know all that much about you. I'm
I
interested to learn.
all I know is I have 3 teenagers and they're all withdrawing all the time.
Listen, I don't have any teenagers yet, but I got a 5, 7, and 9-year-old. And this morning, at one point, I was like, "Stop!
Yeah.
You guys have said 'mom' more than any other word in the last minute, and she can't possibly answer all of your moms. Do
Yeah.
something for yourself."
Yeah, exactly.
So the story is this: I was talking to a guy who's a doc in the city, and I know that you and this person had just met, and he was talking about how like the conversation we started was I was trying to help him understand how to give without asking for anything in return,
Right.
like just how to just be a giver. And he gave me the example of I'm doing that. Like I told Don, like if you ever have a celebrity client in the city who needs help, like send them my way. I said, I get why you think that's a give, but my curiosity is why did you throw the word celebrity in front of client?
That's not a give. That's an ask.
I know. That's what I was trying to explain. I was like, that's
Yeah.
first of all, he doesn't work with a lot of celebrity clients anymore because you got to pay attention to know that that's not where he's trying to go. Second, you're looking to get clout off of those people via that's not a give. That was the conversation.
Oh, and I think it's really a good lesson. This is actually a great conversation here because yeah, it's it's like ask, and like I'll have people reach out to me like, oh, can we collaborate? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. Like you're like in my eyes, like in a way, you're like asking me to go to dinner. Like I don't know. Like I'm gonna collaborate with you if it's someone that I love. Like I could give a shit if you've got 1,000,000 followers or 2,000 followers. I don't care. I don't. You go on my social media, you'll see me collaborate with like Coach Adam Ross, who's got like 4,000 followers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. You got to be good at what you do and you got to be a good person. But when people are constantly coming in and they're like trying to angle a certain way, I'm like, man, it's like, you know what it reminds you of? It's like trying to jump into bed with someone too quickly. Like, dude, fine, man. Like, go have dinner. Go like go do these old school things. Like stop trying to like dive. Like, oh well, yeah, I'm trying to make deposits. I want to, Don. Let me work with one of yours. First off, like a lot of the celebrities I work with, they've gotten to a point now where they don't want free stuff. They don't. They would rather. They are ordering things online under an alias, under another specific name. Like they're using fake names, or their assistants are ordering it because they don't even want to be put on the spot. They're like, why am I going to ask for a free pair of shoes or sneakers? I can afford that. You know, and then you're going to contact me and act like they don't even want to be bothered now. So, trust me, it's, the people that I work with now, they would rather just pay and they would rather not promote because it becomes too stressful. And it's, it really is a monstrous ask when you have, no one understands it. I've learned to understand it because you got people reaching at them from 1,000 different ways. This cousin, that one, this manager's niece. And you're like, holy shit, like all day long. It's just, can you send me a video? Can this one do this? Can this one give me a shout out? Can you follow me on IG? Can you loan me 25 grand? It's like, holy crap, like enough. And that's why, and I'm gonna hand it back over to you. That's why I've done well in this industry, because I don't ask. I don't ask. I never ask.
There's a few things there that I've run into myself, right? One of them is I have a story I can share with you that I think will obviate where this mindset comes from. Back when I was trying to get my thing going.
Yeah.
And this is like maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago. David Wright was still playing for the Mets. Let's just put it that way. So I was 1 degree of separation from him. And I have a family friend who supplies all the gloves for Rawlings. And I was like, Steve, David Wright requires 2 hours to warm up. Connect him to me. I'll help him. And he's like, are you sure you can help him? And I said, yes, I'm sure I can help him. And he said, Sean, that's why I can't connect you. And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, you don't know anything about David's problem.
He's right.
You haven't spoken to him. You have blind confidence that you're going to be able to do this, just like the other 30 docs who had blind confidence they were going to be able to do this, who wanted to put David Wright's name next to theirs. So I can't, he's like, I love you, like you're family, and we are. It's like, and I hope you understand I'm helping you by not making this connection.
He's right. He's
And
right.
it was so useful. It was so useful.
Derek, that happened to me a couple of years ago. I'm a contributor to Golf Channel, and they had me on right around the time when Tiger Woods had his car accident, and they just turned to me on, like literally put me on the spot. Like, if we were to send Tiger Woods to you right now, what advice, what would you, how could you help him? I like literally on live TV, I was like, I have no idea.
Mhm.
And like David Hack was sitting there like almost laughing. I'm like, I have no clue. I have no idea we don't know who he's worked with. We don't know what he's tried. We don't know, where is he mentally? Where is he physically? Do we really, like, people think they know out there? Like Johnny Miller's commenting like, this guy ruined his back from running in army boots for 5 miles. And I'm like, really? Like, he ruined his back from running in army boots a couple times 5 miles? Or did he ruin his back from swinging a golf club 10 million times?
Right.
Like, I don't know, like, how did he really, and it's just, I've learned, D, and I want to kick it to you, but I've learned to just shut up and listen. Send it to you.
Sean, I don't know much about you. Tell me about yourself and some of the things you're working on. I'm very interested.
Where do we start? I mean, what's interesting is I like to lead with telling people I'm a husband and a father first, and then I do my business. But people aren't so interested in how I husband and how I father, except for when we're out to dinner, which I'm happy to talk about there.
I like it. I like hearing it.
It's a good place to start.
Then fair. I'll give you some insight on that. My wife was the person who supported me when I was busting. I was working 17-hour days, 5 days a week, and a 12-hour Saturday. I would take Sunday off to figure out what I messed up Monday through Saturday. And I was making less than $30,000 a year as a doctor with an event company and a gym. I had all three of those going at the same time, and I could not, like, one would make money, the other would lose money. Otherwise, it was like whack-a-mole. And she was the person who the whole time was like, I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. And so the reason I lead with that is because having her as a support system for me when I was just floundering was so crucial. And so now my goal, like a successful day for me, people ask like, oh, what's success? Success for me is I'm home by 6 o'clock and my phone is in a drawer and I'm at dinner table with my wife and kids. That's success. So I think it's important for people to know that's where things start for me. After that clinical setting was really formative for me. I was a personal trainer at Equinox, just like Don was, not at the same time, but similar time frame. That was 2000, 2005, and then again, or 2006, and then again in 2009. Got to being full-time really fast and found myself really frustrated by where the personal training scope ended. I would take my clients upstairs to the physical therapy suite because all my clients had ailments. And I would say, what do I do with this person? This person has ALS. I don't even know what that is. This person has frozen shoulder. This person has a hip replacement. This person is advising the president on drug policy. He's working with me because he feels like a fraud, advising the president on health, being 100 pounds overweight, getting winded, going up and down the stairs, or taking the elevator to the second floor. What are the things I should avoid? Anything that bothers him, just stay away from it. I'm like, moving bothers him. So I got really frustrated with what I could do as a trainer. Got my license to practice chiropractic, found that snapping necks and cashing checks wasn't for me either. So I started to meld the two worlds. I was doing a lot of soft tissue work and a lot of exercise intervention. And after I hired a mentor who taught me that I had all the skill in the world, but I didn't have the mindset. I was thinking about me too much, and I wasn't thinking about other people enough, to make a long story short. After that, I started making some serious traction, and I had Olympic medalists, professional baseball players, CrossFit Games champions, and regular people from around the world flying to my office in Island Park, New York, which is a town no one's heard of. It's a drive-through town, not a drive-to town. And then I had to send them away and write program design for them while they were gone. So that turned into the opportunity that I enjoy is actually online. It's actually like an in-person online blend that build real relationships with people and really serve them so they don't have to go to the doctor. They don't have to compromise on living an active life and do the things that they love to do. Did that really well. Coaches started asking, how are you doing that? Why did my client, who I've been training for 5 years, who's very happy with their aesthetic, fly to see you instead of asking me for this? How do I learn how to do what you do? So then started teaching coaches. That started going really well. And then the gym owners these coaches were working for or at started noticing I have one coach who's making a real living and who's making a real impact on their clients. You're the one working with them. What changed? Started working with gym owners. And full circle, to demonstrate to gym owners what I believed the healthcare clinic of the future could look like, I went ahead and opened one in Long Beach, New York in January of last year to bridge the gap between fitness and healthcare and really to function as an island adjacent to both. That's my medium length story. There were hurricanes, there were huge losses, there was a lawsuit, there was relationships ending, not with my wife, but all the stuff that is fun to talk about when you're out, that all happened too.
So wait, when I came out to your facility, obviously you put some money into this really nice podcast facility. And you do have a partner, right? You do have someone that you're splitting a lot of. No, it's just you, but you have a team in place that's helping you produce this podcast. So you're pretty much you are a chiropractor. You do have a strength and conditioning background, but you really are coaching more of coaches now. Is that really?
Yeah. So I told my parents I was leaving. I'm a Jewish kid from Long Island, Don. So when I told my parents I was leaving clinical practice, when I was finally making 6 figures plus in my, for the first time ever, I spent a week on what am I going to say to my parents?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be a doctor anymore. They're proud of their Jewish son. He's not going to be a doctor anymore. So, I ended up telling them, I got them to say, we just want you to be happy. And then I said, well, I'm happier in pursuit of something I'm passionate about than I am in the certain success of what I know I don't want to do. So support me. And they did. And my dad said, promise me you won't let your license lapse. And I said, I have no intentions of letting my license lapse. And then 6 months later, I let my license lapse. I never promised. But so I have my background is in personal training and chiropractic. And what I came to be fascinated by and what I think I did really well was when I would work with a client / patient, whatever you want to call them, they thought I was working on their body, but I was working on their mind the whole time. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy the personal development that I went through transformed me completely. And without becoming a different person, I couldn't have any of the success I have today. And the same is true for so many clients who come in. They want to lose a little bit of weight. They want to get out of knee pain. They want their back pain to go away. That's what they tell the trainer. It takes a really well-developed person who is that trainer to be able to ask, what would be different about your life if you changed that? And then to be able to understand that's what they really want. They just only know how to explain it to you as the weight or the knee or the back or whatever. And that's a much heavier goal to achieve. And if we're aiming at losing the weight or we're aiming at fixing the knee, we missed the point altogether. So I really love helping the up-and-coming professional understand that and then be able to efficaciously solve for the knee too.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, for God, over 25 years in the business now, I would always hear this line from other instructors, like, keep the goal. Like, you have to have a goal. And they'd be like, what's your goal in training, Don? I'd be like, man, I don't have one. They're like, you have to. Like they would almost kind of like get upset with me, and I'd be like, no, I don't have to. Like, I don't. Well, you need to choose a goal. Like, is your goal to squat more or bench more or do X, Y, and
Mhm.
Z? And I'm like, no, my goal is to, you know, leave every session with a specific. My goal was about this, right? And training, that training. Like, now, if I did the same program all the time and there was no variability and it was just one approach, like, I'm not training this. Like, I need to be able to stimulate my mind through movement expression, right? And challenging. And I don't mean like standing on a Swiss ball doing some nonsense, you know, fucking
Mhm.
movement. Like, I mean it by understanding that my joints have good integrity, understand that I can move a specific way. What's your, so it makes me really happy to understand that, like, that it really, with you, it sounds like when you're working with anyone, whether it's an instructor, whether it's another coach, or whether it's a client, we got to start here first, correct?
Yeah, and if I was the coach writing a program for you back then, and I said, and I was trying to get to your goal, I wouldn't ask what's your goal twice. If you said I don't have one, I wouldn't be like, no, you have to have one.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's
I would ask you the same question though in a different way.
right,
So Don, how do I know if we're being successful? And then you might say like, well, all the things that you just said.
right.
And so then I can deduct, got it. So what I'm hearing from you is you want to be able to have a catch with your son whenever you want to have a catch with your son. You want to be able to go to the playground or play whatever sport your daughter plays with her whenever you want to. You want to be able to come into any training environment with any client, any friend, anywhere, and be able to do what they're doing without thinking, this hurts or whatever. So I need to make sure you're enjoying it, continuing to make progress, and that we're keeping stuff outside of your training session as the priority, and the training session supplements that.
100%. And you know, for me, a goal is that I got to be 2 to 3 weeks out from being able to take my shirt off and be on a magazine cover. And like, a
Right.
lot of people would struggle to understand that or look at that as if it was a valid goal. And I'm like, that is what's put money on the table for me. That's what's allowed me to work with the clientele I've worked with. I've never worked with anyone who has turned to me and said, well, you know what? Like, you got a decent physique. I'm in better shape than you. Like, it didn't happen that way. It still doesn't happen that way. So yeah, I really believe this starts. And Derek, I mean, Derek's a world-renowned running mechanics coach, right? He's probably, if there's a guy that you go to ask a question about running and running mechanics, sprinting, it's Derek. He's number one on my list. I mean, Derek, it's pretty tough to work with someone if they're not committed mentally.
Yeah, I mean, I get lots of parents contacting me and like, hey, can you work one time with my kid? Like an example was there's a kid who was going to baseball showcases and you know, I guess they run a 60-yard and this and that. And so they're like, yeah, he's got to go to the Blue Jays camp and he's going on Monday. Can you see him on Sunday? I'm like, what the hell?
What's that?
So there's not a commitment to accumulating a consistent base of work, right? It's just, oh, fix him so he can run. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. So I get it a lot. And it's
Well,
frustrating. Like you have to reprogram people to understand what's important.
Derek, I'm curious. Do you take clients whose parents reach out on behalf of them, or do you require the kid reach out?
I mean, it's typically the parents, you know, and yeah, I would say it's 90% of the
Oh
time.
man, you know what? Sean, I know where you're going with this.
Well,
I
I'm
love
curious
it.
because
And I
like,
love, no, I fucking love it. Go. I'm gonna shut my mouth.
Although, you know, the
Something I
parents will
want to
say
add.
my son or daughter has expressed an interest to get some advanced coaching, right?
mhm.
I'm like, okay, you
when,
know,
when does the kid get it? Like, when in your process does the kid qualify or disqualify themselves?
oh, I mean, you'll know, and you know, you'll see in the warm up whether or not they're committed, right? And if they're attentive and they're engaged, like,
Mhm.
you know, the first couple of things you tell them to do, you'll see, okay, this is good. I've had cases where the kids, you know, at first I thought they weren't engaged, but that, you know, the parents were driving it. But then the kid was actually quite good in following up, and you know, we'll do communication via text or WhatsApp, and I'll send them videos and they'll ask me questions. So it really depends. You can't necessarily call it as you see it, in first impression. So
I
it's
follow you.
different.
I'll give you the example in my life right now. Two of them. My mom runs a day camp, first and foremost. And when counselors' parents call my mom's like, I'm not talking to you. Like your daughter works for me. You don't work for me. So if your daughter wants to ask something, she can call. That's one. I'm not saying you should do that. That's one of the places I came from. And the other one, for me right now, 9, 7, 5-year-old girls, Girl Scouts. They sell cookies. I hate the cookies. Like, why can't Girl Scouts sell fruit? But that's a conversation for another day. But I tell my wife, I'm like, it is not your job to sell Girl Scout cookies. The point of selling Girl Scout cookies is not to make money for Girl Scouts. It's for our kids to learn what it takes to sell something.
So
If
true.
they want to sell, they can sell. And we've seen our kids sell. Like, we've woken up and our kids have come in our bedroom in the morning still in their pajamas. And my daughter has woken me up. Hey, Daddy, guess what? What? I made $3. I'm like, when? She's like, this morning. I'm like, what did you sell to your sisters? She's like, nothing. Like, well, then where did you make $3? She's like, I sold my artwork. To who? The neighbor. I'm like, what? So we turn on the Ring camera and rewind a little bit. And there's my daughter walking outside in her pajamas, going door to door, selling Post-its that she made a picture on to our neighbors.
So sweet.
So we know she can do it.
Oh yeah.
But, so for me, I'm like, don't sell the Girl Scout cookies for her.
Yeah, no, this happened to me on Sunday. This Sunday, I got a call from an agent, right? Immediately, I get a text, an A-lister, blah, 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 but won't mention the name. And I immediately, like, guys, I've had this conversation more than anyone. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, great. Get the message the next day, Sunday. Hey, listen, I'm available today. Can talk within the next hour. The guy calls me up. I said, how are you? He said, good, good, good. This A-list celebrity. I'm like, well, let's start with their name. Like, let's start with their name. And he throws the name out. No clue who this person is. That's fine. I don't know everyone in Hollywood. I don't know everyone in the music business. No. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant, but there's a purpose to this story. So I said, what are they looking to do? Are they looking for something in person? Because I'm not your guy. Like, I can't see anyone in person. I go, I have a program that I don't really market. And it's and I set it up every 3 months. I'll bring someone aboard. It's a weekly 1-hour call. The fee is X. If they want to come out to the barn and train with me here, they can do that. If we want to do a Zoom call where I work with them, that's great. If they want a Zoom call, 1-hour call, that's fine. It's 1 hour a week for the next 3 months. Here's the fee. I will set them up with food. I will set them up with supplementation. It's done. They have to worry about it. And if that does not work for them, I am more than happy to direct them to someone who can help in person. Oh, this is great. This is great. This is great. I'm going to go talk to the team and then they would like to speak to you. And I said, why do I have to talk to the team? And he's like, well, they want to, I'm like, no, I'm like, I need to talk with the potential client. Like I'm not, and then I like, the guy started getting a little, like, he understood that, like, was I getting annoyed? I wasn't getting annoyed, but I'm like, listen, this relationship right now, and I told him, this relationship right now is between me and the client. It's like, I'm speaking to you, you're the agent. Now I have to talk to their team. Like, why? Like, why are we setting this parameter out of the gate? Like, the expectation is for me to be able to help this person. I can't go through 5 different people every time I need to communicate. This needs to be where, like, no, like, if I'm getting an article and I want to send it to you, it's a text strand. If I want to check in after a flight and see how your reading was, that's part of the program. That's part of what this is. But here is the parameter. And I said, this is what I said. So do me a favor, talk to the client. If he's interested in speaking to me, great. And if not, no problem. I completely understand. And I hung up the phone. And you know what? I know for a fact I'm not getting the guy. I know, but that's fine. I'm not like, I am done in my career with, doing the things for 30 something years of my life. I'm in the catering, dude, I'm in the catering business. That's what I do. I am in the catering business, but it also gets to a point where, like, you're coming to me for my professional expertise and you're coming to me because you have a role or something you have to get ready for. No one better to do that than me. And to do that, I think from day one, there needs to be an understanding of what is this marriage going to be like over the next 3 months. And if it's not something that fits for either of us, then fine. Let's move on from it. But
Right. Well, that person, to me, that person's job is to be a time saver. They're saving, like they don't want their client to reach out because they're like, look, you might have to call 10 people to get the one who's going to work with you. I'll call the people, figure out who it is. But after that, anything through them is more time. It's not less time.
But think about it. Why is it about the rapport I'm setting with the agent?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Right. It should be like, I'm talking the agent that may not train, that may not have a connection. Maybe out of nowhere, I'm talking to the client and he's like, I'm like, where are you from? And he's like, Long Island. I'm shit, that's where I'm from. I'm like, what high school? Boom. Out of nowhere,
Right.
this barrier gets lowered. And then we're in there. They're on there talking these very business type questions with me, which I get it, but you know, and with some people, I guess you have to do that. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, no, like I don't feel like that's setting things off the right way on square one on day one. And when you turned to me and you said, who's contacting me? Is it the parents or is it the kids?
Mm-hmm.
There's a valuable lesson there. Like my son, when he books batting lessons, I'm like, I'm not booking it. You book it. You have to cancel it. You cancel it. And if you miss a 24-hour policy, that $100 is coming out of your allowance. I don't give a shit. Accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. It's teaching, it's personal responsibility, right? Because otherwise we get to blame other people for stuff. If other people are responsible for the stuff and it goes wrong, then it's not our fault. And so we don't ever get a chance to actually get any better because it was someone else's fault that it went wrong.
Right. Right.
So I love making it the responsibility of the client, whoever the client is. Like, it sounds callous to somebody who would listen to this, who doesn't do what they say they're going to do every time they say they're going to do something. But if what you're talking about in this is you're the coach, you're the mentor, whatever we're going to call it, they're the client. You're going to work exactly the way you say you're going to work. They don't have to worry about that.
Right.
So now the only variable that's left is, are they going to do what they say they're going to do? And that's a variable that is wildly changing all the time.
Derek, this happens a lot. This isn't always with, you know, the coaching piece. I'm seeing this happen a lot with brand partnerships. So like, let's say an NFL quarterback signs a deal with a specific company and I get a call from that company and they're all excited to work with this person. I'm going to make the guy's name up. John. He's an NFL quarterback. He's phenomenal, up and coming guy, rising star. Everyone's all excited to the fact that they're going to bring this person aboard. And then out of nowhere, they're asking me about the partnership. And they're like, well, the agent, they're, you know, talking about, well, they only want to give us one post a month. Right. And immediately it's going into like the maximum that they're going to do. Right. Like they're already drawing these parameters 10 out of 10 times. Like I'm telling the person who's about to sign this, like, don't sign it. Do not do a deal with this person. Because immediately you're coming in with this barrier of like, this is my ceiling. You're going to pay me out of your pocket. Right. And we're going to have this business venture, but I'm going to give you the bare minimum. Like, this is what I am willing to give, but I want this in return type of thing. And to build a company, to build a relationship, Derek, for an athlete coming to you to run, I mean, that's like an athlete coming in saying like, Derek, I want to train for the Olympics. Like, what's the bare minimum I need to do? And when you need to coach me, like, you're going to go through you follow what I'm saying? Like, this is, I mean, it's all bullshit. I mean, how often do you get parents and kids coming to you and you're working with the parent and not the kid, or they're sitting there on the sideline screaming and yelling? Like,
that's what I was curious about. And like, where you're like, guys, does this guy even want to run faster? What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, it's definitely prevalent. And I see that. I mean, it's happening in all sports because there's a huge early specialization emphasis for every sport now. Like, there's a kid I'm helping with an elbow rehab, quarterback, and we're talking about all the different quarterback coaches he's had, and then, you know, all the different specialties and how they squabble. Like the quarterback specialist guru space, I guess, is very crowded now, and they're all like, oh, he stole that from me, and it's just like, oh my goodness, like this is ridiculous, right? But certainly um there's that need or that demand, or I guess if you want to call it, where parents are like, oh, my kid wants to be a basketball player, so they got to go into this club and this camp, and they got to travel all over the place, rather than really deciding, like, does the kid really want to do that? Does the kid have what it takes to stomach that, like the commitment, right? So I see it all the time, and I'm always looking on the injury side. So if mentally you're not committed, and there's some doubt, it's going to affect your performance and potentially your health. So I mean, you got to start with a psychotherapist, I think, for the most part, with a lot of these cases, right? And you talked about this, and my question to you was, how can you do this with an online setup as opposed to having to necessarily see people in person? Can you start screening them and helping them via virtual if they're, on the other side of the country? Do you find that you're capable of doing that with today's technology?
The answer to that is yes, and it's a different client. So the person who we're going to work with remotely has to have some training age. If we're teaching them, like, this is what a hinge looks like, it's not going to work online, because that person might need tactile cueing, and they're certainly going to need cueing while they're doing the movement. And we're not a company that watches you on Zoom and coaches a session. So a person who's lacking the basic motor skills would be someone we would need to work with in person. Now, the advantage that we have is when people come to us who are looking for work, if they need that kind of support, we've probably graduated somebody who lives in the relative area of where they live. And so we can connect them with someone who we've developed over a 13-month program to be able to meet them where they are. That's the one discernment of the in-person versus the online client.
No, that's cool. That's cool to have that referral capability, and then you can still support them online even though they're going to that in-person session.
Well, we end up supporting the person who's supporting them.
Yes.
Oh, when you say you end up supporting the person supporting them, what does that mean?
Our mentorship for coach development is 13 months long.
Okay.
A high percentage of the people who graduate continue to work with us thereafter. They get continued mentorship. So now what happens is they have a client, they don't know what to do with this person. They can come to a support call and ask a physical therapist on our team, is this still in my scope? If so, what are the questions I need to be asking, and what do I need to be doing with the answers to those questions? So now they're not by themselves. They're effectively coming to this person with a team of experts who are able to provide them more clarity when the coach themselves comes up a little bit short. That's what I meant by that.
Awesome. So what percentage, is everything 100% online now? Do you guys have any type of like mentorship program where you host any type of like seminar or something in person with some touch points?
So we've done 3 or 4. So before COVID, we were doing a seminar almost every weekend. We had 20 to 40 people flying into New York, or we were flying around the country and putting on a seminar every weekend. Since COVID, we've only done that 4 or 5 times, and it's always been internal facing. So it's never been something we put out to the world for clients or for prospects to be able to come to, but we are considering getting back to that. The clients we work with infrequently, but it does happen, we'll fly out to New York and shadow our team in our brick and mortar to get some mentorship in that way.
Yeah, I think it's valuable. It's funny. It's even in a lot of what I'm doing now, people are talking about making money through not, I don't have to be there and this and that. I don't see it. Like I know there's value to, passive income and turning around and just not being there and money rolling in and all this great stuff. But I really feel like you got to fuel the fire, and you have to allow them these opportunities to see you and work with you. And, then it's also like social media opportunities there and press opportunities there. And there's just so much you could do with your online business. But like if you run a fully online business, I feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot unless you are also doing some stuff in person.
First of all, I agree with you. It's a different logistical load to figure out how to do well. So what happened for us is, remember, going into COVID, we were doing a seminar. When I say every weekend, we had 17 seminars over a 4-month period scheduled. And they were from San Antonio to Phoenix to California to New York. So we were moving. COVID hits, all that revenue is gone. And now we have to say, okay, well, we have to refund the registrations. Obviously, we can't keep that money. And we need to build an online way to do this. So we spent tens of thousands of dollars. We were the first company in the space doing a live stream through Zoom. So our instructors were wearing ear sets. We had a 3-camera setup and a switchboard and 200 people on a Zoom call who paid to be in a seminar. And any one of them could stop us and ask a question that only the instructor could hear. So we got so good at that. And we, over COVID, evolved our content. So even what we were doing before isn't what we're doing anymore. We've leveled it up. For us to go back into the seminar world and do this stuff in person as a part of our business, we now need to shift people's roles within the company. We need to be able to market and sell these things, because that's not an easy lift. We need to be able to prioritize, like, how does that happen? Because if someone comes into the DM, for example, on Instagram, what should I buy from you guys? The 13-month coaching course or the 2-day seminar? The 2-day seminar is $1,000. The coaching course is $15,000. We have to be able to explain to them why either one would be right without making the other one sound like it's not good. Because they're both good, but they have very different values.
Right.
It's a logistical marketing and sales problem that we haven't been able to solve effectively enough to want to do it consistently. There's I had a call right before this one where I said, look, the thing that put me on the map back when it was me was what we called the intensive visit, where people would fly into town for 3 days. Intensive. We called it an intensive visit. It was 6 hours over 3 days in the clinic and in the gym. Evaluate, train. Evaluate, train. Evaluate, train. Program design for the next month. And then continue with them. I said, we need to bring that back. We need to bring that back. It's not going to be clinical. It's all going to be in a training setting, but it's going to be mindset and physical. So that's the first soiree back into a lot of in-person stuff. And I'm going to train our team on how to do that. Then it will start to be, people are starting to ask, hey, people are flying in. Why are they flying in? Well, you could fly in. We're going to host a seminar to show you what we do over a 3-day session with people who fly in. So we're backing our way back into it.
What do you think? Throughout COVID, we all got really acclimated to doing things online. The entire time that was happening, I'm sure a lot of coaches out there were saying, "Oh, this is great, right? I don't have to be there." But did you feel like that you were missing something? Like that
Oh
first
my God.
event, remember that first event that you went back to and you were like, "Man, I need this."
So
Talk about that.
I was the weekend or 2 weekends before COVID, we had 40 people fly out from around the world. And then it was like, oh, we can't do that anymore. We weren't having them fly out because we didn't enjoy it or because we didn't think it was valuable. They were flying out because we knew there were things that we cannot teach you as well, as quickly online that we can teach you in person. That's number one. Number two, I'm social. I love being around people, asking questions, getting to know people, learning about them, and getting better myself as a result of it. That's two. As soon as COVID hit, like we knew we were actually a little bit ahead in our space, at least, where we started making posts that were like, hey, I don't care what your friend Timmy on Facebook, who's an accountant, says, this thing's coming and your gym's going to get closed. Whether it's 2 weeks, a month, whatever. I never thought a year, but I was like, so you need to be prepared for it. And I started going to my friends at the time who I knew had nothing else to do really in terms of like they were in person too. And I started hosting free community calls for anybody in the fitness space to join, where they got access to my network of friends that they otherwise wouldn't be able to talk to. Rachel Balkovec jumped onto a call. Justin Sua jumped onto a call. We had serious heavy hitters jumping onto Zoom calls with 50, 100 people just to have events, right? Because yes, I missed it desperately. The moment that it was socially acceptable in New York to start being places, I was places. You can't replace in person with online. It's not the same.
Dave?
Yeah, no, and I think moving forward, like Don was alluding to, is finding that balance of like how many touch points do I have to have with people in person to keep driving the online or support it, or are they two separate entities? Can you use them synergistically to kind of drive each other? Have you guys figured that out?
Well, Don's doing it, I think, really well. I'm curious his take. I think about what Tony Robbins always says, which is that proximity is power. And so there's if you want to be in the same physical room as me, it's going to cost you a lot more than if you're in this group.
Right.
Now, I don't have that's why I said Don's doing it really well. I don't have any big groups with a low barrier offer for people. So I'm curious how you're doing it, Don.
I'm definitely in a little bit of I'm in a little bit of a reset phase right now, because for the last 10 years, it was taking advantage of every speaking engagement. Now, when someone like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon reaches out to me, I'll speak for her every month. It's an honor to be on stage. She's a friend. Derek ever needed me for anything? 100%. There's certain people in my life that, again, they're deposit type of people that I'll say yes to, till I'm blue in the face. What's happening though is that, I think a lot of these educators are under this assumption that they're just going to bring a bunch of speakers into a room, not pay them, right? And suddenly start collecting all of their emails. We'll give you, we're going to give you a commission off of everyone that you bring in. It's like, okay. But what they're doing is, and we all know what they're doing, is they're trying to monetize your list. That I'm beginning to have a problem with, because someone's asking me to leave my family, which is very valuable. Leave my business, which is very valuable. Get on a plane, fly somewhere across the country. I don't know you. You want me to sit here. You want to use my name. You want to leverage my list, and, you're paying for my plane ticket. And it's kind of like, now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, this isn't what I want to do. Now, I know what they're trying to say. Well, you're going to be able to monetize your list through your program, through all that stuff. Really? Like, are we really going to gain that much sales off of that? Like, it doesn't happen. Like, it's not something that you're going to be able to turn around and monetize. And next thing you know, you have 1,000 people in the group and 500 of them are buying X, Y, and Z from you. It happens on occasions, I guess, rarely. So now you got to get to the point where you got to ask yourself, what's worth it to you? And that's only a question that you can answer. How do you value your time? If you're one of I have friends of mine that are good coaches, and they have brick and mortar businesses, and they have online businesses, and they're not married, and they don't have kids, and they're, they look like they're doing well, but they're not making a lot of money yet. Okay, like, you got to continue to put your foot on the gas. But, for me, is it more valuable for me to come into a convention and tie up 3 days for 1 hour of talking in front of 1,000 people? Or am I better off flying to LA for 2 days or Vegas for 2 days, going on a podcast tour where I'm going on a call with someone 3 different times, and they have each millions of people listening? I'm going with the podcast tour, right? And guess what? I'm paying for my flight and my hotel out of pocket. I want to do what I'm receiving that return on, and what feels fulfilling. And you got to trust your gut. When you start doing these things and you're starting to get a bit bitter, it's time to move on.
Well, the other thing there, Don, that you said I think is interesting is the people I always see on stage who I'm the most drawn to are the ones who don't actually sell anything from the stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you're supposed to go to an event and somehow monetize the audience, you're immediately less interesting to me as an audience member. And so like if I was ever to host an event, I'm not inviting you if you're someone who goes on stage and pitches.
Right. Yeah.
That's not what how can I tell someone with a straight face, come to this event, you're going to learn everything you need to learn to do these things. And then everyone on stage is like, if you want to learn how to do it, buy it from me. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So yeah, the event space is an interesting one. I do personally want to speak at more events just to be getting the reps. And I'm also at a phase in my career where fewer people know who I am than know who you are. Derek had never heard of me before today. And I would do it for the collection of content that I would have. I'd bring a media person.
And you hands down should, but you are and will be a great speaker on stage, and you will have a lot of value to add. But at a certain point, it's like even Derek, you're like, you and I've had the conversation. Is this worth it now? Right? Like, is you getting on a plane from Vancouver and flying out to New York? I mean, you said is it worth it when you think like enough people are, he always sells out of seminars, so he's a bad example, but you know, sometimes you take these trips and you're like, you know, is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Gotta ask yourself that.
Yeah, no, it's all the time. Like I even thought of this concept of, I don't know if you call it a subscription, or people would buy into my online stuff. And then I would just go somewhere and do a free event somewhere and say, hey, this is to support what I'm doing electronically, digitally, whatever. But I just want to get out there and meet people. I want to talk to you. But I want it to drive my online business or my online consults or whatever you want to call it, education platform. But I don't know. I don't know if that would work. Like if you just say it's a free event, are people going to go like, it's free? How could it be worthwhile? So
yeah,
constantly
going back to the COVID world, we had a list of about 10,000 people who were in our pipeline to buy our seminar. And we were in the process of digitizing it. So we could go from you're doing it in person to, hey, you're not ready to buy the big thing, buy the smaller thing. It's $500 instead of, $1,000 plus airfare. When COVID hit, just said, screw it. And we gave it away. So our list of 10,000 people who were thinking about buying this from us has now evaporated. Over 2,000 of them have downloaded it. That's over $1 million in opportunity cost. Sure, you can say not all of them are going to buy it, but some of them were. And when we looked at the data, almost nobody did it. They downloaded it, like they got their membership for free, and then some people opened it. Some people went through like half of a lesson. Some people didn't do it at all. And the counter argument could be, well, maybe it wasn't very good. It was really good because people who paid for it gave us testimonials about it. It's just like the free thing. I don't see the free thing as being effective unless you're looking to get a huge net of people and then get a very small amount of them
I like the lead. I mean, I like lead magnets. I really do, but I also think you gotta, once you get that list and you develop that list, you gotta hit them with things with value. And it's just, again, you might think you have the best product in the world. Maybe it's too in depth. Like maybe you're turning around like this is amazing, and maybe people are reading it and they're like, we're just not smart enough for this. And I see coaches go through that a lot also. It's this constant evolution, right? Like you're always sitting here and you're always assessing product and you're always evolving product. Like we offer so many programs. The thing that we're doing now is we're taking them down every month and we're letting people know, hey, we're taking them down and we're retiring 2 and we're putting up 2 more, right? And that keeps things fresh in the pipeline. That's something that it's very successful for us. Sometimes taking down the programs, we sell more in that period of time than we did in the life of the program that we were trying to sell, right? But it takes 3-4 years to really learn this. COVID was not a good metric to be able to judge anything. It was
just ask Peloton.
It was bullshit. It was the Wild West. it was, everyone thought it was just gonna, no, it's not gonna keep up. Now you're seeing the real lifers hanging in there, who are the ones that have built solid businesses, and the ones who haven't, they're panicking now.
Well, what you're describing there, what I think you said is really important, is understanding the difference between a lead magnet and a product.
100%.
Like, I don't care if you use the lead magnet. The point of the lead magnet is so that I can get your email, so that I can keep talking to you. If you never open it, that's fine. But if I try to get you to, if I give you something for free that should be a product that you should pay for, that's on me. That's the mistake that we made. It was like, this is too much to be free. Free is like when you're checking out at a grocery store and there's someone sitting there asking for like a donation for the veterans, and if you give them as little as a dime, they give you one of those poppies that you can put in your car. If they were like, hey, here's a book to read, thank you, no one's reading the book. But if people showed up there and they paid because they wanted that book, then they might read the book. It's understanding the difference between, is this just something to get on someone's radar, or is this something to get someone to buy?
Yeah, no, this is I think this is a healthy conversation for anybody that's involved in business right now, because I think we're all trying to figure out, we want to stay ahead of the game, but I think it's very difficult, and you have to take risks, and you have to learn by trial and error, and I think we've all done that. So it's fascinating to
You
me.
have to be humble, and you also have to understand at a certain point, just because something's working, it's not always going to work. Like, I think that's one of the biggest tragedies in business, is you see someone who had a successful product at one point, and then times change, and they're sitting there still trying to hit the tennis ball against the wall, expecting a different outcome. And I'm like, no, it's like, you got to evolve, you got to change things, and you got to assess when it's not working, or you got to assess when you need to bring someone in who can handle areas that you can't handle. Dr. Sean, do me a favor. So I know we have a bunch of coaches on here listening. Could you let them know where they can contact you? Can you let them know about your course? If they want to learn any more about you, where do they go?
The easiest place to find me and connect with me is on my Instagram account at Dr. Sean Pastuch. I respond to every single DM that comes through, unless you're a bot. Every once in a while, I respond to I actually responded to a bot right before this podcast. I was like, hey, do people actually ever take you up on this? And the guy was like, yeah. I said, well, I'm not going to. I was just curious. But so if you're a real person, I respond to every message that I get.
I feel like we needed more time here. I feel like we were just scratching the surface when it came down to business talks and all this stuff. So let's try and do this again at some point. I definitely want to bring you aboard again to kind of talk about the business side of like what everyone's trying to do. And I would really love to have a conversation of like misconceptions.
I'd be happy to do that, because I think when people look at the business that I operate, there's a lot of how do I describe it without sounding like a dick? There's whatever. There's a lot of people who want what I have.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is what it takes to have that. And it's not always awesome.
No.
Right? Everyone thinks like, I'm going to get to the point that I don't even have to coach a client anymore. I'm going to have employees. I have 36. And when I go to bed at night, I have to worry about feeding 36 families, not one. And I have to make sure communication is sound, to make sure that when we're like, if I say something, the person who didn't hear it directly from me hears the intent that I said it with and the detail that I said it with. Like, people think when you get employees, you own a passive business. It couldn't be more opposite.
Yep. Totally agree with you. Yeah. As you offer that product, you have to get involved even more, in my opinion. It's you need those touch. Well, listen, Dr. Sean, thanks for coming on. We're definitely going to do this again. I want to kick around like pros and cons in the industry, talk about things that we wish we knew when we were younger. I mean, if you combine the amount of years experience the three of us have, I think we're going on 100 years. So it's a lot. And there's something to be learned. I mean, I wish I had this type of information and content, even when I was younger, when I was starting in the business. If I had the ability to listen to someone like you or Derek and think about the trial and error, we would have been able to remove, from all those years, if we just listened to people like you guys.
And we had
But
T
wouldn't you
Nation.
agree? Sorry, guys, wouldn't you agree that the trial and error is the goal? Like that's what makes us better. Like failing and to
It
some degree.
is. It is. I think that the part that that a younger me has today that we didn't have is trial, error. What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And then a group of people who've been there to actually provide a contextual answer. For us, it was trial, error, ask a question on the T Nation comment thread, and then get who knows who answering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point.
So next time, brother, thank you. We will let you know when this goes live. Appreciate your time. I actually have an idea on someone who I'm going to text right now about you speaking for, which I think you'd be great for. Talk soon.
Appreciate it. All right. See you soon.